when you're writing a conclusion, the idea is that how is your paper very different from others? When you start writing your conclusion, you have to somewhere justify that unlike other papers in the past, why is this paper very different? You can argue that in political science, this paper is very different because it is more contemporary. Because those articles which you were consulted, they were consulted around, maybe they were written 5-10 years ago. And of course, post-Ukraine and Gaza, war in the Gaza Strip, everything has changed in world politics and international politics. So you can always argue that my article is more contemporary. You will also have to justify how has your article moved the field forward, especially in the discipline. How it has made a reasonable contribution besides being new. What perspective has it taken? Whose views have you analyzed? You must remember that no article is strictly neutral, but every article is written from a certain perspective. Okay. So, card just article to whom perspective of our लिखा है, and how does it move the field forward? Again, then while writing the final draft, you have to be very careful. Now, this is precautions. Plagiarism, reference type, sentence construction, ideological tone, disclaimer. A like very careful हो रहे हैं. Plagiarism is strictly a no-no. Even if you take one word or one line from somewhere, it is better to be honest. Okay, if you borrow a phrase from somewhere, it is better to be honest. Plagiarism. There are different plagiarism tools. Turnitin, it detects plagiarism. So I don't know whether library doesn't, and I don't know call that doesn't. Okay, yes. So probably when we have to send the article, we have to send it through Google. But again, publications will always have their own kind of Turnitin kind of machinery. Sage and all, Ami Jiman Abu Ami Matha said. Just remember the publication people, they have even more matha than all of us. Ami Bhabu hai, we have more brains than, but those who are running the business, they are more sharper than us. So they know about what's going on where. We might think that we might be 10 times sharper than others, but just remember they are putting their own money into publication. So jar paisa involved ase, tahati to definitely they will be more aware of how to detect plagiarism. So tahati dunya bhar software use koribo regarding how to detect plagiarism, and that is the first thing they will do. Okay, that is the first thing they will do. Reference type. There is this kind of APA format, MLA format. Usually articles follow one of them. APA format is 5th edition, 6th edition ase. MLA to 5th edition, 6th edition ase. So I suggest that when you are writing an article, which journal you choose. First you write the article, then you choose the right journal. A journal to the last article which is available for free. A to download karo. You do the referencing style according to that format.
For different journals, on their homepage, they have an author's guideline or something where it's mentioned.
Yes, that is right. They have their own author's guideline. But again, it's so confusing. But therefore, I suggest that more hate try to it is so confusing that it is better to download a sample kind of sample article, hate journal. You do tare last sample article to download karo, and then you fixed in the footnote. Footnote by references. Okay. So it's better, they have a kind of a written, unwritten kind of formula for that, they have a reference style which is given. But when you start writing it, it's not easy. So better is to download a kind of sample size, sample from something, sample article, and then do your article. Says sentence construction and grammar. I'm not saying ki we have to be Shakespeare, we don't have to be William Blake or Robert Frost, but we need to have a decently good English or grammar lagi good. Grammar mistakes upon na lag. I suggest ki I use Grammarly. Whenever I start typing, I use Grammarly. Grammarly will be app and that when you put in the sentence, automatically ठीक करेगी. So I suggest कि it's available open paid version as but it is also open for free. So I suggest that you use the word Grammarly, application Grammarly use for it. This is very important, the ideological tone. Especially in today's times, you have to be very clear about the ideology of the journal. From my perspective, Indian journals now, very few are writing very critical articles. You have to be very careful about where you are giving the article. If I think EPW has also stopped publishing too many anti-government kind of articles. If you ask hard questions, just be ready to face rejection. That's a fact. Where global journals or international journals are still open for, they still accept scrutiny. They still accept an ideological differences. But some articles are some journals are very clear that we accept only liberal views. That कोई we accept only liberal views. There are some journals who argue that we only take a Marxian interpretation. That means if you have a liberal interpretation, don't send it there. They are being very clear. Some journals say very clearly that we have a kind of a Marxist interpretation of things. There are some journals who argue that we have a very conservative way of looking at things. This is a very conservative journal. So your article has to be that way. So ideological tool, disclaimer. আমি একটু disclaimer দিব লাগে this is part of my PhD work. This work has not been influenced by any other work. There are certain disclaimers you have to put. Okay. I have taken help from these people. So it is better to claim but disclaim something openly rather than be some controversy one. Okay. I would like to thank following people for my article. It's a very good thing. You are being very open. I have taken help from so many people. I am very grateful to that. Secondly, fieldwork also. This disclaimer that I have done my fieldwork gives a time frame. I have done my fieldwork during this and this period. Therefore, I will be only covering during this and this. So disclaimer is very important. When you start typing, there are certain sites to be avoided. One is Wikipedia. Wikipedia you don't quote at all. Wikipedia you just, যদি খুবটা লাগে information, Wikipedia will give you that information, but better to go deeper into some other kind of official website. Cut and paste. You can't simply go ChatGPT and do all these things. Nowadays, many people have started using ChatGPT for publications. Suppose I say in ChatGPT, write an article on Indian foreign policy. Suppose there is another person who says that write an article on Indian foreign policy. ChatGPT enukata bostu, muko eke bostu dibo, tako eke bostu dibo. Or when you submit it, it will fall under plagiarism. So better not to do cut paste and ChatGPT nije nokorai bhal. Better to stay safe. Yeah. He rephrases it. No, you give footnote. The moment you go to some site and you borrow 2 lines, you just give it as references. Directly or indirectly. Directly hole to kothai nai. If it's directly, you put it in inverted commas. If it is indirectly, then no inverted commas. But you give it in references. There is no harm. That means you are being honest. Okay.
So, in some cases, what happens? I mean, that there may be common idea. The common idea may be, someone has
already said it.
Yeah, he has already said it. So I want to, refer to that idea and I want to give my version of it. But I don't use his language. But in that case, will it become plagiarism?
No. You suppose you start writing that Sharma in his book Equality and Caste in India in bracket 2018 wrote this, but my research has found this. Then again rephrase koribo lage. Eta Sharma in his book Caste and Equality in India etu to apni reference of dili jay. So it's clear you are not being anything.
As we know, all of you about plagiarism. So among them, social plagiarism is one. So I would like to know, suppose মই এখন কেছি শিকিছোঁ আৰু তাৰ পৰা মই মাজে সময়ে ৰিচাৰ্চ পেপাৰ বা আৰ্টিকেল উলিয়াইছোঁ। এতিয়া এইটোতো আমাৰ চেল্ফ প্লেজাৰিজম।
Self plagiarism.
এতিয়া তাৰ পৰা দুটা কুৱেশ্যন আছে। এই চেল্ফ প্লেজাৰিজম যে হয় এতিয়া সেই মই লিখা ক'ৰবাত বা পাব্লিছ হোৱা আৰ্টিকেলটো মই ৰেফাৰেঞ্চ দিব লাগিব।
Yes, you have to give.
ৰেফাৰেঞ্চ দিব লাগিব।
Self plagiarism follow, you will have to write it ki disclaimers are koisu. Why do you need disclaimer? That towards the end you can always say ki this has been part of my PhD thesis work. So it mane clear ho jayega that this is a paper which is based on your PhD work. If you disclaimer dile ek problem nai. That you have this article has been produced as part of that, but of course article or jonto lines kisman hebla change koriboi lagibo mane rephrasing koriboi lagibo nohole gotei quotation or dibo nwara. So you will have to rephrase it, you will have to rephrase certain pages mane heya disclaimer